Hey, it's Tommy Allen for TommyAllenMusic.com. Welcome. We have the amazing Mr. Sam Kelly this week. Let's get to it. Cool. Thank you, Sam. Thank you for taking part on this Live in the Chair sessions.
Thanks for the invite, mate.
No, it's
been
a long time, yeah. It's good to see you. Still look the same.
Beard's a little bit whiter, a lot whiter, in fact.
Yeah, no, it was a while ago. Blimey. So jumping into it, what does music mean to you?
Oh wow, large question. Music means a great deal to me. Not only is it a way to make a living, it's a way of releasing a lot of pent-up energy, a lot of pent-up all sorts of things that, that's it. Yeah, it also a way of creating. It's one and interacting with other people, which is one of the things I found when I was younger very difficult.
Right.
I had to communicate with other people until I, before I started playing in bands and so on, then it became easier.
And what age was you then?
When I first started, I was around 17.
Oh, really? Okay.
Quite late,
yeah.
In fact.
And it was your brother's drum kit, was it?
Yes, it was. Yeah. My brother at the time was playing music as a percussionist and also as he played flute as well. But his main instrument was percussion, hand percussion. And he wanted to extend his percussion, his range of percussion. So he went out and bought a drum kit. We had congas and bongas and various other cowbells and things. And but he never really got on with kit playing.
Right, okay.
It was his thing. He just couldn't coordinate it. So the kit was left in the basement where we lived.
And then you found it?
Yeah, because I at the time, 17, 18, without kind of giving it a whole story, because it goes on for days and days.
I'd say we're going to dig into some of that.
Yeah, it was mainly coming in at the time. I was a very angry young man.
And why was that at that time?
There was a lot of things going on. I couldn't find the job that suited me. Going through periods with my parents, because my parents had come over from Jamaica. But my whole family had come over from Jamaica, but they hadn't. I felt like they hadn't fitted in. They still had very much of a Jamaican mentality. And me being over in England, it was more kind of adjusting, because I came over when I arrived, I was 7. So I had a chance to go to school and kind of get very much into the kind of European British mentality. And you wanted to, be like the other kids. Yeah. So
why was you
younger?
Sorry, Sam, why did you come over at 7? Was it?
Well, my parents wanted to get, mainly for my brother, who was at the time he was 14, to kind of complete his education, and because my brother's quite a clever guy, and if he could go to university, they would have liked to, because at the time in Jamaica in the 50s, it was geared up for it, but not really for a working class kid. It wasn't really geared up for a clever working class kid to maybe get to university, get onto that kind of higher learning. So they thought, well, bring the family over, spend maybe 5 years or so in England, and then if it didn't work out, go back to Jamaica, which was the idea, But that was 1957, and I ain't been back since.
So, and I guess a lot has changed since then.
Huge amount. I haven't, as I said, I haven't been back I've talked to various people who've been back, and it's just changed so much. Obviously, the language, the whole where we lived is no longer. It's something I wouldn't recognise. My brother's been back.
Well, you was tiny as well, weren't you? 7, you said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it was at that stage where you could change and adjust. And when I came there, I did adjust.
I saw that program that Lenny Henry did. I don't know if you saw that on the BBC. It was probably about a year ago, and he went back and you saw all the outside, not the classic Jamaica, it was the behind the scenes Jamaica. Right out in the bush, and he was meeting old family relatives, and it was really nice, really good. But it showed you a side of it that you don't normally see of the island.
That's very true, because I mean you go back and you see the reality of it, because like with me going back, I mean, like for years and years, I couldn't go back because the language had changed, the accent. I mean, it was still based on English, but the dialect had changed. And a classic example of the change that took place. I went to see, do you remember a film called The Harder They Come?
Yeah.
Well, I went to see The Harder They Come when it first came out. I can't remember what year it did. It must, 60s, 70s, 80s. I can't remember. Anyway, I went along and I listened. There's a scene where they were talking about a famine. I mean, my famine over there. They couldn't get any, how can I put it? They couldn't get any ganja, right, from the countryside into town. And they were talking in a Kingstonian dialect. I couldn't understand it. I'm sitting there, they had subtitles. I had to read the subtitles because the language and the dialect had changed so much. And I was like, God, I don't fit in there, you know what I mean? There anymore. But no, I've spoken to people who've been back and said you wouldn't. To think about going back there to live, you wouldn't fit in. Even though with the accent, because as soon as I started speaking, people would know where I grew up. That I grew up in.
And you got to the age of 16, a frustrated young man.
That's very true. Yes, I did. And so I used to come in, as I say, with all the other bits and pieces I was angry about. Say to a certain extent with my parents, with what was going on, and starting to get an understanding of what it meant to be black in England. You see what I mean? So I'd come in, and rather than get into fights and things like this with people, I'd come in and take it out on the drums. Just not try and play them, but just beat them, just hit them. And also the physicality of hitting the drums and the sound, it released that tension. So, and that's how it started for me.
So what was the stages between 17 and sort of 20 for you with drums?
Basically, just, as I say, just hitting the drums initially. And then slowly, without having a lesson or anything, I found I started to play a pattern. I don't know if that makes sense. It's like playing guitar, and you're there humming away, and eventually you find chords here and there. And I was finding that I was playing patterns on the drums.
Was you playing along to music at the time, like off a CD CD players in, did they?
No. But there was no record. I would listen to records, but not listen in the sense to say, "Oh, I'm going to learn a drum pattern or learn this." No, just purely for recreation.
And what about jam sessions? Did you start venturing out for them? No. Okay.
No.
So what was your first time then? Was it, where you sort of felt, well, I want to take this a step further? And
well, what it was, I kind of fell into it in as much as there was I used to live in, between Brixton and the Oval Cricket Ground. Anyway, there used to be an art centre. It's still there, in fact, an art centre called the Oval House, and they used to put on music at the Oval House. Anyway, a band was booked to play there. Their drummer didn't turn up. I think somebody passed who may have been either working at the Oval House or been attending. Anyway, that part, how I was told the story, that their drummer didn't turn up. The band was desperate for a drummer. So the person said to the band, there's a guy who plays just down the road. Go and call him. So they're desperate enough, not enough. Anyway, they come down to my house and say, you play. And I said, well, yeah, being that kind of age, yeah, I can play, yeah. And I ended up playing with this band. That was my first gig. At what age it was, I can't exactly remember, but that's how I got into. I made that transition from being a basher, so to speak, into to a musician.
Okay, and how did that gig go?
The gig went really well. Surprise, surprise! It went really well because
you're still with them, yeah? Am I right?
Sorry,
you're still with that band? Are you right?
Yeah, right up until about 2 years ago, I was in the band, and this was with 1950, 60, 1975, 73, 74. That's when I first started with them. And so I was with the band up until about 2 years ago. We did 2 tours of America, did 3 albums with them, all on the strength of...
That's a pretty good fall, isn't it?
Sorry?
You said I fell into it. That's a pretty good fall.
It's amazing. I mean, from that, meeting people like yourself, Shaky Vic going down the Station Tavern, getting involved with the blues guys.
You're asking my next question, how you leapt from that band, because they weren't a blues band, were they?
They were a jazz band, in fact.
Right, okay. So
playing very kind of complicated jazz. And what I could play at the time, again, I don't want to kind of get too involved with the story, because all I could play was a very simple pattern, what I call drum pattern number 1. Boom, check, boom, boom, check, boom, check, boom, boom, check. And I played that on that first gig. I played that the whole night. And it fitted. It worked, because even though they were playing complicated patterns, the rest of the band, because the way, if you look at music, it can be looked at mathematically, because even if you're playing like 5/4, whatever, every so often you all end up on the one together. So as long as I stayed where I was, they would fit in around me. So that was great. And I say from that, they changed the name of the band, and it became a band called Sam Andy, which was very successful. But from when we had a break, after we'd done a couple of tours of America, we decided to have a break because we weren't getting any further over here, because they wanted us, the record company wanted us to go and live in America. And none of us wanted to go and live in America at the time at all. So I said, well, no, we'll come back, and we'll keep going backwards and forwards. But whenever we came back, after working with people like Al Green, supporting Al Green, Ramsey Lewis, Kool and the Gang, this is all in America. We'd come back to England, and we couldn't get a gig. The only people who were kind of interested in the band, John Peel used to play us, the material, and believe it or not, Tony Blackburn used to play us, but we couldn't get a gig in this country. So we thought, well, this is crazy. So we said, well, let's have a rest for a while. Everybody can go off and do their own thing. And that lasted for 40 years. So, yeah. And then somebody came up with the idea, let's put the band back together. 2 years later, so we are kind of had another go at it. But that's basically. But in between that, as I say, getting people like Shaky Vic would ring me, and I was doing a lot of freelance work around town. I say working with people like yourself.
Mine was later though, wasn't it? What year would this have been? Because Station House, that was going as a venue.
I think Station House. I was at the time. Station House was when came out of being having a residency down at the Station Tavern,
Yeah.
on the road. So, and
That's where I first saw you. I think I was out.
yeah,
I was in town, and it was some sort of festival, and then I heard this blues music, and it was before I was gigging. I was sort of late teens, and then I looked in and I saw you and some sort of band, but I didn't know you at the time. But it was that place.
Well, we had a residency down there with who was in the band? People like John Iden.
Was TJ in the band then?
The original Station House band came out, was formed because I was playing a lot down there with these other people, let's say Shaky Vic, John Ide, etc., as a house band. Then the guy who ran the place, Bob, I can't remember what his other name is, said, "Look, Sam, there isn't a black blues band." As far as he was concerned, he knew there wasn't a black blues band in England. So he said, why don't you put one together? I said, well, yeah, I like the idea. And then I said, well, I need a gig, because I'm not going to put the band together, rehearse, and then wait around for a gig. So if you give us a gig, Bob, I'll put the band together. So that was with Dave Clark.
Yep, bass player, yeah.
Root Jackson, myself, and TJ Johnson. And that was the original Station House. So that was about, from the time, so I was working with other people down there and working with Station House as well, and that's when my whole sort of career outside of the Samandi thing starts to be.
Well, we've done the interview with Paul Lamb recently, and he mentioned that he came down to that venue, Station Tavern, in the early days. So that must be where you crossed paths with him and...
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everybody used to play down there. I mean, that was the venue, the gig for jazz, sorry, not jazz, for blues at the time. I mean, it had music on 7 nights a week, and it was just a great atmosphere. You just never knew who was going to be down there. I mean, there were times that I played down there. Tom Jones turned up one night. There was a record company just down the road and a TV studio. And he'd done a TV spectacular. It'll come to me in a while. Anyway, he came up after he finished down at doing the TV special and came to the Station Tavern, got up and jammed with us. Shaka Khan came up one night and jammed with us. So, yeah, it was a very, very famous place. Again, including people like Paul Lamb, who traveled down, my God.
From Newcastle, yeah.
Yeah, traveled down from Newcastle to come and play down there over the weekend. Brilliant, great place.
And how long was that place open for? Do you know when it shut?
It was, oh gosh, it's got to have been. It was open before and playing music before. That's how I got in there. Because I went in there as a dep originally to dep with Shaky Vic with a house band, Top Topham, John Iden, and who's the again, my brain's gone. The drummer, because the original drummer with the Yardbirds. Because he couldn't do it all the time, so I ended up taking over from him and becoming the house drummer there. So it was going quite a long time before I got down there, and I played on and off 7 or 8, maybe 9 years down there before it closed.
Right. Okay. And when did it shut?
Oh wow, good question. It's got to be 20. It's got to be 20 years ago now.
Okay, so it's quite a while.
Yeah.
From there, then you've been in numerous blues bands. Then, from that point.
Oh. Yeah, I've been very, very lucky. People have liked what I do and my approach to drumming, because it's not come from the conventional. I never had that blind, like a lot of musicians who had that blinding moment in their time, saying, I heard blues or I heard this, and I said, that's what I want to do. I never had that, and I never went out and I never had a lesson either. I was totally self-taught. So a lot of people have liked my approach to drumming, and have booked me. So I've been very lucky to have a career on the strength of that.
Is technique a bad thing then? And do you really need it to play well?
I don't think you need to learn technique and follow the convention to play. I think it's applicable. That's applicable to anybody playing any instrument. If you've got a natural feel for it and it comes to you and you find that you are getting your point across through the instrument, then it shouldn't stop you. It hadn't stopped me because I didn't learn how to read, and I didn't learn the more formal side of it until much later, after I've been playing and I've been in the business for quite a long time, because I wanted to extend the places and who I worked for. I wanted to get into things like playing theatre, playing, that kind of, where you needed to read. So I then sat down and taught myself to read. So I think the best way to do it is to go and play by ear, in that sense of just feeling, and then learning the theory, rather than the other way around. Because I think I've worked with quite a few people where they've come the other way around, where they've learned the theory, and if you take that piece of music away from them, they can't play. They have to play what's in front of them. They can't imagine, and they can't they can't play instinctively.
The shuffle. I started asking drummers this because where did you pick up that? Can you remember? Is it something you just picked off an album or?
That's a really good question. The first time I played in a blues band, because coming out of the band, this is all linked up, coming out of the band Simandi, who's when they changed after I joined, they morphed and they moved from being a band called Meter, and they became Simandi, which is more of a kind of a Afro jazz kind of band. So it's great. And then on my first blues gig was with, I think it was either with Shaky Vic and I think it was Shaky Vic, and we were at the Dublin. You remember the Dublin Castle?
Yep.
Camp, right? I think it was there, and again, it was another one of those kind of situations where you bluff. Can you play it? Yeah, of course. That was my whole attitude towards that at the time. So I went in, and I pulled out a blues stand. I can't remember the name of it, and I'm playing more straight, dum dum check, dum dum check, dum dum check. Straightforward over it. And the bass player was a guy called Pete Scott, who lives in New Zealand now. Turned over to me, but in the middle of this number, said, "No, it goes like this: dum 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 dum." And we're trying to do, it's like on the job training. I'm literally playing from dum dum chick dum, and then eventually kind of dum dum dum, and that's how it came about, and that's how I learned to play a shuffle. It was actually on the job, on the gig. I ended up playing with Shaky Vic for many years after that, because he just loved the way I played. Yeah, that's a great way of playing, man. I like the way you mix things up. Oh yeah, of course, yeah. Pinocchio.
And what's it like? How would you describe being a drummer at the back?
I absolutely love it. I don't play another instrument, but I love it because it's working. I've been so lucky because I'm falling into that situation or falling into that trap, thinking this is what drummers do. You sit there and you go boom chick or whatever, and you just keep time. No, because when I go and play with a band or somebody sends me a project or come up with, my first thing is I either listen to the melody of the song, or I listen to the lyrics, and that then dictates what I play and how I play it, rather than thinking, okay, this is what drummers do. So I love it. So someone described my style of drumming once as being like a First World War general leading from the back. And I find that I do every time. Once in a while I go in and I play, and I say, well, look, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to sit there and I'm going to just play. I can't do that. I think you're the same way. I think any musician that's thinking at all and wants to be a part of what's going on rather than just be, this is what I do, you try and contribute whatever you can, try and enhance the lyrics in a certain kind of way, try and enhance the melody, try and enhance the song. And that's what I try and do. So that I find it's brilliant. Absolutely works for me brilliantly.
And what are you thinking, like when you're playing, and then like when you stop, and then you get up and you get up and start walking around and you're clapping and that? What are you? No, I'm not. I'm saying
You
what
remember
you.
that?
Yeah. What are you? Are you? Is that something you're in the moment? Yeah.
I'm absolutely right. I'm in the moment, and I'm trying to. If I move away from the drums, I can hear more of what other people are doing. I'm not just listening to what the conventional sense of what the drums and bass, or the drummer and bass supposed to stick together and just kind of. No, I think there's more to it. You listen to little things coming out. If you're the keyboard player, you listen to that. You listen to the vocals. You listen to everything that's going on. I think for me, I listen to what I play on drums less. I listen to what other people are doing, which influence what I do.
You find a space, sort of thing.
Find a space for yourself that would enhance what's going on. And the hardest thing of all is if you find that you're not contributing in that for a minute or whatever in that song, don't play. Rather than just make a noise, whatever instrument, whether it's drums or whatever, just stop and let it will still happen. And then try and approach it from a different angle. That's the way I work. That's the way my approach to playing is about. That is my approach to it.
What excites you musically?
What excites me musically is finding that I'm exciting other people in a band situation. Is that I'm actually exciting other musicians to do things. Is when you're up there, because one of the things I think that's so important is that interaction that you get, because it's too often you get in situation, or you can see it, is that people are just in isolation. I am the guitarist, I am the keyboard player, I am this, and that's what they do. This is what I'm playing. So what excites me is that eye-to-eye contact. And once you've got that, then you get that interaction going musically to develop whatever it is that's going on. Because on the other hand, if it's not happening, you'll soon find out. You'll soon feel it, or not, as the case may be, and just leave it.
What pisses you off musically?
People who don't play that instrument, telling other people what to play.
I'm feeling you.
No, I get that. I get that quite a lot, because with drums, I used to get it quite a lot, I should say, because now I just tell people where to go. Once they start telling me, if someone's booked me, this is different. If someone's booked me to do a session, and they want to be quite specific, and they've got an idea in their head, then I will try and accommodate that, because I'm being paid to do that. I'm not But if I'm in a situation and somebody is putting a band together and they want me to come and play drums, and then they start telling me what to play, then that pisses me off, because they're not allowing me to bring what I bring or who I am to the table. They want me to bring. They're trying to make me bring somebody else or something else to the table, which is, to me, not what it's about. It's like when I put a band together, I put specific people in because I want them to bring what they have to the table, rather than try and tell them, do this and do that, or that pisses me off. Is being told what to do, unless, as I say, I've been in situations where people have come up, they've got a specific idea. It's a session, and it's on a limited time. They either give me a chart and say, I want you to play this, or they come up to me and say, look, I want you to play this for this long and this for this. Well, that's different. But if you're in a kind of growing, what I call a growing situation, where you're kind of growing together with other musicians and you have time to grow, then that's a whole different thing. Let that person grow.
Do you have a favourite kit?
Um, yes, I do. It's made by a friend of mine who is a drummer. I was going to say was a drummer, but is a drummer. It's a guy called Dave Carrera. It's a he couldn't find for years. He used to be a cabinet maker, and he for years and years he couldn't find a kit that suited him. So he went, "Sod it, then, mate. I'll go and make my own." So he went out and started making snares, and it developed from that. And he um, made himself a kit, and then it got big because the company took off, and people were asking him to make drums for them. And he came along to listen to me play one night, and he said, "I like the way you play, and I'm looking for people um, to endorse, and I'd like to because there's not enough, or should say not enough. There's the British instrument making, or especially drums. Those companies are dying out. People like Rogers, who make British Rogers, Premier, because they're all buying out or being taken over by foreign companies. So there wasn't a British drum maker left, really, But so he decided, let's make my own. And the kit he made is my favorite kit, and I use that on whatever I play, whether I'm playing jazz or when I'm playing rock or whatever I'm playing, and it suits me fine. The sounds I get from that.
Right, okay. And how do you prepare that kit for recording?
I don't prepare it because obviously, like anything else, like any venue or every studio's different with different microphones and so on. So what I tend to do, I take it along to the studio, and adjust it in conjunction um, with the producer and with the engineer, and see what kind of sounds they want. It can get to a stage where they want something that cannot be got from that kit. So then you can, with that impasse, either you kind of book somebody else to do it, or you compromise and saying this is what you get from this, as close as you want to get. But it also needs my input because I need to have it tuned so that I can play it, so that it makes me want to play it. Just saying, it's the same thing with work going out to any venue. You go along different. You'll get different resonances and different sounds in a venue. You make slight adjustments, but most of the time I don't when I'm playing live, because if you do, you just be going crazy. It's you get one sound on the sound check, you get another sound when you got the audience in, and so on. So it's you just have to work with what you've got, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
So you don't record it to like the key of the songs or things
Say
like
again?
that. You don't record it to like the key of the songs.
You mean as in tuning?
Yeah, like the kick or the.
I have done in the past when I used to work for as a band called SOX, SOX, which is another one of the bands I play with, a guy called Gordon Hunt and Chris Cameron, and some of the guys who went on. Gordon ended up playing with Sade. Chris Cameron ended up being musical director for George Michael. So it was a very heavy band in the sense of these guys were kind of top quality, knew their theory and everything else. So there was one particular song that Chris Cameron had written that needed particular, almost like a timpani sound. So rather than go and get he would tune the kit to a particular to a chord. That was really interesting because I had to play specific things in that song. But no, I don't. I tune the kit is I tune it to for 99.9% of the gigs to what makes me want to play, what sounds good to me.
Okay, and how many snares do you sort of take to a recording session?
I would take probably 3 different depths. Everything from a piccolo, which is sort of a 2-inch, to up to like 6.5. So between those 3, you should be able to get the sound that's good for everybody. So yeah, around about 3 snares.
What are the key qualities do you think every drummer should have, other than rhythm?
Being able to listen,
Right. Okay.
being able to listen, I think it is so important, and also uh, having the trust in yourself, in themselves, and also the trust with the people that you're playing with, is to be able to, as I say, to be able to stop in the middle of a song. If you don't feel like you're being able to, if you're contributing, and I've said this before, it's so important to me. Stop and let it take you. Let it take you in another direction, or don't play, or clap hand, or find something else, some other way to express yourself. So I think it's so important, because with drums, there was a feeling, I think, for a long time, the drummer stopped playing, the whole thing would collapse. But it doesn't. It doesn't. So that's what I think. The drummer's got to have that kind of confidence in themselves. Plus, the other people you're working with have confidence in themselves. That if this drummer stops playing for whatever reason, that can still continue. You know.
Who are your top five drummers?
Oh gosh. I can give you off the top of my head. I can give you maybe three. My favorite drummer is a guy who I little story in this. Is a guy called Richard Bailey. Richard Bailey is a guy from Trinidad originally, but he's been living over here for, oh gosh, years and years and years. And Richard, I think, is one of the most tasteful drummers um, in England. And Richard, with the band that we were talking about, going back to a band called Simandi, which I was, the first band I was in, which when I left, who did they get in to play drums, to take on the drum seat? Richard Bailey, which had made me feel, I feel so chuffed, and I'm so glad that that someone of his stature, well, I think is taken off the drum seat. The other guy is a guy called Kieran O'Connor, who is dead now. He used to play for a guy called Diz and the Doormen, who you may or may not have heard of. Because my favorite style of music, I don't know if I'm preempting your questions, but my favorite style of music is New Orleans second line music. Music by Dr. John, Professor Longhair, Huey Smith, and people from that part of the world. And this guy, Kieran O'Connor, was a real great exponent of this music. But he was just a guy who moved around, because I'm not a massive fan of a lot of these big name guys, because I haven't heard really a lot of them Steve Gadd is the exception, that make me want to think, yeah, that's great. But him, I find, is playing is not just drumming, but it's interpreting exactly the things that we're talking about: melody, lyrics. You listen to the way he solos. He doesn't. It's not a huge amount of noise. It's tasteful, and it moves from this point to this point. You don't have to play the instrument, but you can follow what he's doing. That's what, for me, is what soloing is about: is to try and get across to somebody what you're feeling at the time. So yeah, those three, off the top of my head, are people who I rate very, very highly.
What about Zigaboo?
Zigaboo, well, Zigaboo is in there, because he's again another one of those wonderful players playing that New Orleans second line. So with the meters, playing with the Nevilles, and it's I can't. It just does it for me. That's what does it. I mean, for me, that's the framework. Because when I play these days, I play with a kit consisting of bass drum, snare, hi-hat, and one cymbal. And I find I can do everything I need on that, just that. Unless somebody wants something quite specific, let's say a section in a song with a tom-tom, then I will bring that along, a floor tom or a hanging tom. But my basic kit is that. And whole playing style is based on that New Orleans stuff. So Zigaboo is right up there along with the other three names that I mentioned.
Okay. Who's your CD you got playing in your car at the moment?
Oh, that again is a very good question. I'm going to probably give you an answer you won't uh, expect. I don't know. I don't have music playing in my car. I would play music in my car if I'm going along to a gig. Somebody books me to a gig, and they can send me the music that they want me to play on that gig. Or if they can't send, if they can't send me charts. But I would rather listen to Radio 4. I love talk radio. I
You're not
know.
the only musician that said that though. We all do the same, I think. Driving home at like 2 a.m, listening to Radio 4.
Exactly. Or you're coming back and listen to World Service. As I say, I will listen to, if someone wants me to kind of, study and get an idea of what this particular thing is, then I will listen to it. But just for coming back from a gig, say at 4 o'clock in the morning, I listen to Radio 4, or Classic FM if I, or anything away from where what I've just been doing.
Anything but music.
Very true. Yes.
Oh dear. If you could travel back in time and give a younger you some advice, what would it be?
Oh yes. That again is a very good question. You have done your research. I'll say I've been very lucky because I didn't have to go down the conventional route. And I think if you can, and if you have the time and you have the inclination to go down that self-taught route, initially do it, because it can formulate so much in the way, in your style. And then go and bring in the theory, learn to read, listen to other drummers who you rate and see what they're doing. But the thing is so important, especially with drums, because it's so easy for people, going back on again what was that, it's so easy for people to tell you what to play, and you've got to be very strong for you to be yourself. So I would say try and learn the instrument and learn about yourself first, then learn the theory and the conventional way. If you want to have lessons, have lessons, but don't have lessons first and then try and play. Right. Find yourself as much as you can first and then have lessons if you want to.
What is the best advice you've been given?
It's that really, is to find who you are as a player, and what's important to you is, because as I say, it's so easy to be caught up with what a drummer is supposed to do, because you haven't got chords to play or anything like that. You have rhythm to play. And to learn, because with that, you can learn things like dynamics, how to interpret a song or how to interpret the music. Because it's so easy to just go in there and just be straightforward, boom, 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 boom. You start at 11 or start at 9 and finish at 11, forgetting about there's other areas dynamically to go. You can go quiet, which I think is one of those things that too many... I find that when I go out and listen, I don't find enough of that going on, of working through things to interpret. From one of the things that works best for me is that the old saying is, when you're in there and you start verses, intros can be quite loud, verses are soft, and then you get more progressively louder as you go through the song. You get your intro, you get your verse, you get your chorus, and you can move dynamically. And so you get a wave going through the music rather than just being one dimensional.
Was your mum and dad behind your music, your drumming?
They didn't stop me. which is one thing my brother and I are very, very grateful, because my brother's now, he stopped playing music years ago. He's a sculptor. He's a very well-known sculptor. So basically what I'm saying is that they allowed us to be whatever works for us, rather than saying, because when we came here, what I was saying earlier on, we came here with one goal in mind of education. I'm going up and learning and being qualified. Because when I left school, I was qualified as an engineer. I never wanted to play music. I never thought, a lot of my people in the 60s wanted to play music, and a lot of guys are playing guitar and so on and joining bands. I didn't want to. It wasn't one of the things for me. I wanted to become an engineer, fulfill like my parents' dream for us, which was part of what the frustration, because there was other things I wanted to do, but that's what they wanted for us, which is understandable, because we're coming from a third world country. Learn what you can, get what you can, and then go back. But we didn't go back. So getting caught between a rock and a hard place. So what they did do, as I say, which I'm forever grateful for, they allowed us to be ourselves. You want to be a musician? Be a musician. Whatever works for you. And, mother came along for a few gigs, and she was very proud. She said she was very proud of what I was doing, because I was getting what I wanted from it.
Do you have any other hobbies?
Well, yeah, I don't know if it's considered to be a hobby, but I used to, at one time I was going to be a photographer. I love taking photographs, portraits, whatever, general, whatever works. So yeah, taking photographs, I suppose, is what's considered to be my hobby.
Is there anything you're not very good at?
No, well, I know definitely what I'm not good at, what I'm not particularly good at. I'm not particularly good at conveying my thoughts to other people. You know what I mean? Put me behind a drum kit, and it will all come out, and that's where I'm most comfortable.
That's your communication path. Yeah,
that's my communication is in coming out in the instrument and working with other people, trying to convey my. Like we're doing now on an interview, because so much of it is abstract, and it's trying to bring all those little elements together to try and get them across to not a fellow musician like yourself, because a lot of us go through the similar kind of things, but it's someone who's listening to this and watching this to try and get them to understand the person behind that. It's. And because a lot of it's abstract, and trying to tie all these bits together. Because I mean, I've been playing professionally since 1956, 57. No, 70. Sorry, so you see what I mean? Since about 1970. Since around 1970.
Oh, damn, that's when Elvis came out.
He would have learned to play by now, but no, since around 1970 this all started for me.
Yeah,
so it's a lot of different elements have come together to make it what it is, and trying to convey that to someone or as I say, who's not a musician, I find it very difficult.
Yeah, no, well, I'm the same with interviewing people. I just thought this is the great way for people to get to know real musicians behind the scenes, and you know, get to know not the basic stuff like drumming and that, but who you are, and get to know the man behind the drums, and
yes,
it's great. I mean, I've enjoyed being your friend over the years, and we don't get to talk much, but it's great to learn more about you, Sam.
Well, it's also, you just touched on the point, because a lot of times, even when we're playing in the same band together, you get together, with the people I've worked with over the years, it's been great. I don't have an enemy anywhere. But you get together and you play, and you say, and you get together at a gig, and you come together, whatever. And you exchange greetings, and you try and make sure that everybody's okay. But you don't, as you say, you don't get to know the people.
No.
Because it just isn't time. You're in, you work, you have a break, you work, you're gone.
You're not hanging around and when like you did when you was 18 and at that age you was prattling around anyway. You weren't really getting to know each other. So but now I've got more. I see a lot in common with everybody because I'm doing this and I'm seeing similar things and we've all gone through similar stuff and
That's
it's
right.
nice. We've not been alone at times when I've you felt you've been alone.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
think, oh, they do that. They like Radio 4. I mean, that's a small part, but damn it, we're all doing it.
Common, but it is say it's taken this to
Mm.
bring that side of it out. Because I think we're very similar in the sense of you trying to trying to work out what your music is about for you and your instrument, what it means for you, to interpret what's about. Whether you're, one of the great things that's for instance happened for me is I've gone in and I've gone into sessions and I've taken in bits of what's going on. I've seen how it's put together, and I was lucky enough about a year, 2 years ago now to actually produce my own album. And I have some fantastic musicians who again, going back on what we were talking about, people I got in the band, you got them in the band because you like what they do. And what you more or less do is, look, here's a song, let's go. And you allow them to go and do it rather than try and explain to them, I want this and I want this and I want this. And then at the end of it, you listen back to it as a band. And someone might turn around and say, well, maybe I can improve on that a little bit, a little bit of solo here. Why don't we overdub a solo, or why don't we have a little interplay between the bass and the guitar, or bass and keyboards? And they're producing for me, my job as a producer is just let them do it. And if there's an impasse, make a decision, and hopefully they'll respect your decision. But you allow the people to go on and to do what they do, which is also important. And I've got what I consider a fabulous album. The reviews were fantastic out of the guys that are playing, and guys I've known for many, many years. Our lead singer, one of our lead singers. I've got 3 lead singers in the band. Just in case one decides I've had enough, I'm off. I've still got 2 others. Boy Scout.
Shame you can't do that with drummers.
Well, to a penny, any gutter you'll find.
So, any good TV you're watching at the moment?
No, not really.
Not with this lockdown. You haven't been on the box.
Oh yeah, I've been watching a lot of TV, but I tend to record a lot of different types of things. I love documentaries. And the other thing that really, the best bit of TV for me at the moment is finding out about Black history.
Okay.
Because when I was at school, we had some great teachers, but there wasn't anything about our history. Again, I don't want to kind of get too deep into it, but what we're finding out because of the lockdown, and I think it's because of the lockdown, but it started before the lockdown for me. Well, that's been extremely interesting to find out about our history, and because I mean, I was watching a program last night, realized that Black people had been in this country for 2,000 years, and mainly they came over with the Romans. Think about the whole of the Roman Empire. They were taking people from all over the place, making up their armies and going all over Europe and Asia, and then bringing these people with them. You know what I mean? So there was a program, I cannot remember the name of the professor, Black mixed race professor guy, who's been opening my eyes to a lot of, he was the guy who did a program about the Windrush and about Black history. So that is one of the most, to answer your question straight, it's for someone like myself who's been brought up and been in this country for over 60 years and did my education, most of my education in this country, we never got to know about our history, and it's nice to find out about a lot of aspects of our history that if you think about it logically, like if you know anything about the Roman Empire, you would know that they would pick people from all over the place to join their army, and they would pick people from what I call Black Africa as well, to come over, and they end up in places like around Newcastle and Cumbria, around places, and a lot of them didn't go back when the Romans left this country.
They stayed here.
They stayed here, and their genes have got washed into the British gene pool. Never really even thought about that. It's something that's really kind of opening my eyes, because I did most of my growing up over. I've been in this country since 1957. I've got it right this time. So well over 60 years. So a lot of it was to do with the fact that my history is growing up over here, but being a black guy growing up over here. I mean, I had a really good friend, one of my best friends from school. And as you did, when you were kids, to go around and knock at each other's door. Is so-and-so coming out today? And something that occurred to me years and years after we're still friends, but he went to live physically in another part of the country. And something didn't occur to me until years and years later. I was never allowed to enter his house. When I went to knock on his door, I would have to wait on his doorstep for him to come out, and we'd go out and play and whatever. And it wasn't until years and years later that I spoke to, in fact, it wasn't until his funeral, I spoke to this guy's older brother. I said, why was it whenever I came around and knocked for his name was Roger Nola, I could never go? He said, yeah. Our dad wouldn't allow it. He wouldn't allow a black guy to come. But it never occurred to me. I thought that's the way things were. If that makes any sense. That was the scheme of things. But he would come around to my house, and he was accepted as part of the family. But that's the way we were,
So you didn't feel that at the time, though?
No, not at all. It was just the way things were. And it started to make a lot more sense of watching. I think it would educate a lot more people as to the connection between us, all of us. Whether you're originally from this country or not, to realize that somewhere in the British pool of gene pool, there's a lot of black genes in there.
Well, we're all mixed. Everybody, we're all brothers.
Well, yeah. Well,
what you're sort of saying,
people don't see it.
Yeah, no, some don't
want to see it. A lot of times they don't want to see it. So I think the education, basically, that's what I'm on about. Education, they should start widening the curriculum for our kids in school. I'm not just talking about black kids, white kids, brown kids, all of it. I think it would make such a difference to the way we mixed. Because I think one of the great things, coming back to the original point of the interview, one of the great things, I've never, in all the years I've been on that stage and I've been playing music, I've never gone on stage with a band, whether it's for the first time or for the 100th time, and felt any kind of way,
no prejudice sort of thing.
Because of my colour.
No.
We're all musicians.
Yeah. Music does it. Yeah.
It brings us all together.
Mm-hmm.
We may not talk about a whole load of stuff, but once we start playing, it's that communication thing. Once we start playing, we communicate.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It's very rare that you get on that stage and you say, "Oh God, this is awful." This thing, it happens to us every once in a while. Maybe every blue moon, you get on that stage. And
I've experienced it. The opposite way. Well, no, I was with a certain band. I won't say what. And the bass player was very prejudiced against me.
Right.
And that was a little uncomfortable at the time. Like, you know, if I walked into like the kitchen bit, he'd walk out, or with cars and things, and he was very, and he let it be known, which I respected. But the others in the band, that, you know, it was all fine.
They were fine with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was just the one person. But
Well, it was a dislike of you.
no, not me. Just yeah, because of my colour.
Your black.
Yeah, I'm
Your
not black.
colour.
I was the only white guy in the band. Yeah,
Yeah. You see,
and I was like,
yeah.
But-
Let's say when you get something like that, you just think, whether he's black or white, you will never be able to communicate with him,
no.
because he's got this wall up against that you'd be knocking your head against.
I just said all my idols are black. Do you know what I mean? If you look on the wall behind me, what, BB King, Lightning Hopkins,
Yeah.
John Lilker, there's no white guys up there.
Yeah.
So I was trying to, you know, but it's each to their own, isn't it? You just got to respect everyone's.
Every blue moon, once in a blue moon, you will get that either
Yeah.
from. I think I've had it from one band. I've had it from, you know, and I did one gig with them, and the vibe was not good. And I'm thinking, well, I'm knocking my head against a brick wall. I'm off.
Yeah,
There'll be other things. That's another one for me. Another one of those great things about music is that as one door closes, etc., etc., etc.,
yeah.
you know, there will be another door opening.
So before the end, I'll do a quick fire questions.
Yeah.
So just answer them quickly. So cash or card?
Cash,
Morning or night?
night.
Stay or leave?
Say again.
Stay or leave?
Leave.
Tea or coffee?
Tea.
Silence or conversation?
Conversation.
Roots or funk?
Funk.
Toms, yes or no?
Ooh, yes.
Love or money?
Oh, love.
All right, Sam, well, thank you very
Bye.
much. I better go in because I think dinner was cooked like an hour ago. So I'm going to be in the dog.
It's the same thing myself.
I'll be in the doghouse. But yeah. So it's been lovely speaking to you. Thank you.
And you. Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
take
Look
care.
after yourselves.
And you.
Bye.
See you soon. Cheers.
Hey, it's Tommy Allen from TommyAllenMusic.com, and that was Sam Kelly. You can find out more about Sam and his music at www.sam-kelly.co.uk. Next week, we have Mike Thorne from Rimshot Studios. We'll be talking mixing and mastering right here at Tommy Allen Music at 7 o'clock every Wednesday. Please give us a like, hit the subscribe button. Until next week, a word from our director.